So, good day, everybody. Today, we are very happy that on our webinar session, we have our dear Magister Drago Plečko. And he is a great personality, and he is a researcher about life from his birth. And just few words about him. He is a chemist and promoter of alternative medicine and author of many books on bioenergy, health, and yoga. And he is the pioneer in a number of alternative fields, as yoga, also Ayurveda, transcendental meditation, bioenergy, psychotronic, and alternative spirituality. And also, he has frequently appeared on television shows, many times, as well as on the radio, and has given a number of newspaper interviews in which he advocates that alternative methods of healing and meditation should be explored by scientists. He was the first to publish interviews with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, with Dalai Lama, and with a number of other spiritual teachers. He visited India many times and meeting with the greatest masters of yoga from India, like Shiva Bala Yogi and Papaji and some other masters, which and he was also his author of 7 books and the author of the first TV film about the phenomenon of Medjugorje, appearance of Mother Mary to the children there. And he has participated with papers at several dozen European and world conferences in that field. And it's our great joy that he is with us to share his wisdom all these years researching in that field. And also, before we start, I would like to invite Mr. Manohar Lal Ji, our dear second Secretary of Ambassador of India, and in the embassy regarding the culture, and to greet our dear Drago for starting this webinar. Yes, Manoharji. Yes, you need to open the mic.
Yes, now it's okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, respected Jadranko ji. It is an honor for us, Embassy of India, Zagreb, to have a person like you. And we also welcome Mr. Drago, who is also expert like you. And we will be benefiting from his lecture, his wisdom, his experience about yoga, Ayurveda, and many more fields. So once again, Embassy of India welcomes Mr. Dragoji, Jadranko-ji, and all the other participants. So I would like to give mic again to Jadranko-ji to start this event. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manoharji. Thank you very much. So, dear Drago, we can start. So, first, I remember we met many years ago, and you started to practice transcendental meditation, 1973, many years back, and you were one of the first who were making interview with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and you had a very interesting experience with Maharishi, and also your own practice with transcendental meditation. Would you like to tell us some of these early experiences which you started to have with the practice of meditation?
Well, I started in 1973. I was initiated in Zagreb, and my first experience was really amazing. It was first diving towards the bottom of my consciousness, sort of. We Westerners don't have such experiences usually. So it was a brand new experience for me. It brought me bliss, peace, relaxation at the same time. It affected my life enormously initially. Later, I went to CDs, to TMCD program, and we together, well, first 10 Yugoslavians actually becoming the CIDAs. You remember that we were together there. So that was a discovery for everyone here. Such a potential that you get through transcendental meditation. The process itself was truly amazing. This process of experience is the finer and subtler levels of one word, which is called mantra, actually. So spontaneously, you perceive finer and finer aspects of that word. You come to the finest aspect, and after that, transcendence should follow. You should transcend it, and you should be in transcendental consciousness, which is thoughtless consciousness. It's not that easy in practice. It's not easy to transcend. There are some resistances inside our minds, and through time, this is becoming a major problem. Initially, you have that experiences, that bliss consciousness is all the time there. But after a while, you notice that your mind is developing some kind of a blocks and some kind of a resistances towards that experience. Of course, if you analyze it, you are threatening your mind constructs, you are threatening your ego by diving so deep, and it's logical that you develop that resistance. And through time, it's becoming a problem for most of the people. This is the most subtle and most dangerous trap on your path, because after a while, these experiences are becoming dull, and you don't have a feeling that you are making a progress after a while. So after some time, most of the people double their efforts. They do not understand the basic teaching of Maharishi that you should take it as it comes. You shouldn't put any effort in it. It should be spontaneous. But you want to push. This is the Western way. You double your efforts. You are doing pranayama more than necessary, doing asanas, everything, and you are becoming a vegetarian. Then you are preaching around, convincing people that vegetarianism is a must. Things like that. It is becoming your ideology, but that's not the way to more progress. So that's my conclusion. That's my personal experience. So I was trying to find something that would remove these obstacles from your subconscious mind, which are actually creating the problems on your way towards the transcendental consciousness. And more Western way are some other ways. I'll talk about it later, but that was my initial experience. So I encountered that same problem in the other systems of meditation, in yoga and Tibetan Buddhism, everywhere. So that was the same problem after a while, that your mind develops some blockages and some problems, and you can't transcend properly, or you can't experience the mantras properly, you can't visualize things properly. It is described in the Holy Scriptures. Then, of course, some people like Maharishi, for example, are born genetically predisposed, so they are doing it. That's spontaneous process in their lives. So they do not easily understand how come that everybody is not experiencing the same thing, which is impossible, of course. So there are some people for which this is not a rule. But there are many that are meditating for 40 years and they don't have any proper experience because they are not understanding the nature of their own mind, which is anyways the Western mind. So I think some things should be done, like combining different systems with some preliminary exercise to remove these obstacles in your subconscious mind, which is 95% of your mind. Only 5% is conscious, so I'm not making any decisions really. your subconscious mind is making decisions for you in your life, it should be combined so that you get that transcendence effect and you remove the obstacles on the way to it.
Yes, and so you were researching many different methods to understand the nature of the mind, how it functions, and in relation to the body and the blockages in the body, like autogenic training. You were also researching, and Nidra yoga. And especially, I remember you were emphasizing the role of the eyes and the tongue in these processes. Can you explain us something from your research in that field?
Well, it happened sometime around 1979. Dr. Vladimir Grudin, his PhD thesis was based on autogenic training exercise and accomplishing the difference in the temperature of between 2 palms. That was his PhD thesis, to prove that you can master that heat in your body. You can move it here, there, you can control your veins, you can control your arteries and everything. So at that time it was fancy stuff. So I volunteered in that group. So after 3 months I mastered autogenic training. This was invented by, developed actually by Johannes Schulz. He was a Berlin neurologist who for years was experimenting with hypnosis, and he observed some things in hypnosis, and he developed self-hypnosis system, which is called autogenic training. It has 6 basic exercises. One is the heaviness in your body, the warmth of your body, your regular breathing, regular heartbeat, solar plexus heat, and ultimately the cooling of the brain, of the forehead. So that brings you some kind of it's called autogenic state of mind. It's like a hypnagogic state where you are floating between dream and waking state, sort of, is a description. It's similar in some way to Yoga Nidra. What is in Yoga Nidra Sankalpa, well, that is the auto-suggestive formula in autogenic training. It's the same thing. And the secret is actually when you develop that state, you can switch into it within 2 minutes. You're there suddenly in that state of mind, and you're hyper suggestible. So whatever you suggest to your mind, it happens. So your organic systems, your autonomic functions in your body start to respond to the orders of these formulas. That's the point. So you can bypass the resistance in your subconscious mind through that practice. And then gradually you remove these obstacles in the subconscious mind. You are open the possibility to other techniques, methods, mantras, whatever, to enter the deepest levels of your consciousness. That's why I believe it's very advanced. And what is amazing is in 1932, Schulz published the first book about it, and then in 6 advanced exercises, the first one is the question, who am I, which is Ramana Maharshi's question. That's why it's believed that he picked a lot of things from yoga, from classic yoga. So I was very successful, because at that time in the literature there was a world record of 3.9 Celsius degrees, this difference between 2 palms in the temperature. I achieved 4.1. It was a world record actually. So in a way, I was a world. It was a world record. So anyways, that something is, in my opinion, in this age of Kali or in these dark ages, necessary before someone actually starts having a visible progress in his meditation, no matter what that meditation is. It can be a prayer too. So it's a must to do it. Sankalpa in Nidra Yoga gives us is the same thing, but it lasts too long. It takes you a while until you enter that state with Nidra Yoga. Here, when you master that, it takes you 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So this is basically the best preliminary exercise before you start meditating.
Yes, thank you very much. And it will be very interesting to hear from you your personal experience with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi when you were making the interview with him, and then you were asking him about your personal experiences regarding the meditation. And all those who are practicing, I think it's good to hear some of his advice that he gave you in that regard.
It was, yeah, that was quite, there were two. He was the most spiritual and the most impressive person I have ever met. I was more impressed with him than with Dalai Lama, for example. Dalai Lama is a wonderful man and a loving and a really great man. But Maharishi, that wisdom was unique. I have never met anyone else afterwards like him. That's the truth. So we met for eyes only, and we met for TV. In interviews, he would never mention any of it. It was some kind of a routine. You shouldn't ask about religious aspects of any yoga or anything like that. It was official. But when we were alone and I asked him things, I was shocked. He actually answered me everything. And one of the main problems that I had was I asked him about mantra. When you start meditating, so you are finer and finer aspects of mantra you experience. So you come to the finest level. So there's basically no thought anymore there. But you're still not in transcendental consciousness, you are on the verge of it. So there's no more technique that can help you. What happens then? And then he said, then grace is necessary. That was the first time that he used a religious connotation, a religious word for something, for some experience. I was actually surprised he never did it. So he told me that then the grace is necessary. I asked him about, I knew that mantras are these divinities, Indian, and so on. Everybody knew it, basically. Nobody talked about it, but we all knew it. And I asked him, what is the connection between this mantra and this deity? It was Saraswati in my case, and he said, at one point, when you meditate and the pause between two thoughts is long enough, suddenly from this spot here, from navel, that divinity, that deity appears in front of you. You literally can see it. And that's what he told me when we are discussing this stuff in between us. And then I had some things I asked him about it, because it's impossible to enter the state of samadhi or the state whatever, Nivrikalpa samadhi, Savikalpa, there are many words for it, but basically we know what we are referring to, transcendental consciousness or cosmic consciousness. It's not possible if you're not fully relaxed, because what happens is that when you think, your tongue is working like you are talking the words you are thinking. So it's the muscle which is the strongest in our body, and it's working 24 hours a day. It never stops. Even when you are just watching TV or reading or whatever, You are always talking your thoughts. So if our other muscles would be of the same strength, like our tongue, we could pick up 10 tons. So we would be that strong. And until you relax that tongue and stop these thoughts, you can't enter that highest level of meditation. Of course, you can after 30 years in Himalayan cave. Probably you can. But normally it's hard to imagine that. Second was the eyes. Our eyes are changing their position 100,000 times a day. And these muscles around our eyes are expressing our emotions. It's a very, very fine mechanism. So, what happens with people that are taking a Botox? They are stopping the expression of their emotions. It affects human emotion because you have to let these muscles work because they are spitting out your inner contents, your inner emotions. So if you don't do it, in yoga it is described, you know that you can watch to the tip of your nose, or that you have that famous parallel look. There are exercises how to stop the workings of but it should be done with the help of autosuggestive formulas. And I once asked Maharishi about Sankalpa, is it actually? He said yes, we may say so. He didn't like the mentioning of hypnosis, because he was accused many times that he is actually hypnotizing people, which was not true, of course. But he was avoiding things not to be accused for something. But anyways, there are very, very similar states of mind which are, we are using different words for it, but they actually are the same state. So, in my opinion, for example, his night technique, calling it like, you know about it probably. I mean, I'm sure you know. And this is the same idea. Before you fall asleep, you should put your attention to that space here. In that way, when you are asleep, you fix your eyes on that point. That's the reason why I'm doing it. And then, of course, if you do it, you have the experiences from other realities, parallel probably realities, angels, whatever. So it's possible then. So I did see this connection, these things. Schultz never said that. He was never talking about development of consciousness. He was a clinician. He was talking about psychotherapy. In his autogenic training, Maharishi wasn't talking about that. He was talking about meditation as a means of better life, and also as a means of spiritual development, ultimately. So I think these things should be combined. I found in Vietnamese Buddhism, I found exercises which are meant for relaxing the tongue. You know, it's not usual, it's rare practice, but it is there, for example, in Vietnamese Buddhism. So you find here and there different systems that help in your progress. That's the whole point. And there are many things that I asked Maharishi about. And when we were alone, when I was sitting with him, we were in a small room together, and suddenly his secretary entered the room, and he said, which was unusual, he didn't like to be interrupted while talking to someone, and he said, you have a phone call. So Maharishi asked, who is it? And he said, John Lennon wants to talk to you. And for a brief moment he stopped, and he said, what does he want? And the secretary said, he's asking what can he do for the mission. And Maharishi was, for a while, he was surprised, and he said, tell him to be quiet. That would be the favor for the mission. So he didn't want to talk to him, and the secretary left. It was in 1980, maybe March or April. In December, he was dead. Somebody killed him from behind in the Dakota building. So I remember that. Later, when I became aware of what actually was happening at the time. So he was, if you mention some experience that you had, he would always tell you what that means. He would never hide anything from you. If I asked him, for example, about that technique, this technique, there are many of these techniques. So he would always answer, you know, but not publicly, not publicly.
Thank you for your experience. So you actually engaged in all practices many years regarding the yoga, autogenic training, transcendental meditation, everything. And as we know, with that the practice of yoga has a rejuvenating effect on the body. We know that we have a chronological age, how we are counting the number of the years from our birth, but also we have biological age, which can be different than chronological age. So you were telling me about your experience about measuring your biological age. Can you tell us something about that?
Started when I was introduced by Maharishi to the, that was a reversal of aging process with transcendental meditation and TMCD program. There were many scientific studies published, very good ones, some of them, about rejuvenating of the body through transcendental meditation. 2 years ago, after all my practice, lifetime practice, somebody asked me if I would give my blood to Glycan Age Test. This is a brand new test which shows what is your biological age. My biological age was at that time 70, so I was 20. After you find, no, not that one. No, yes, this is me. This is the, that's my name. This is the, it was tested in London in a specialized lab for glycans. And the other illustration shows this curve on which you can see that I am 20. You see my watch, 69 was my chronological age, and here was 42 my Glycan age. Actually, this is my biological age. You know, through any practice like that, you may attain that. It's I think every meditation, but Maharishi devoted more time to develop that system. So some of the people at that time were 20 years younger after 5 years of meditation. But this was also a record. The best case they had before this one was 24 years. And I'm here quite good, 27 years. So probably combination between Balkanese genes and practice. That's it. That's it. Yeah. So of course you have plenty. There are some, you can, after you combine these practices, there are ways to understand, realize what's going on. You have some phenomena coming up, like you can feel inside your body. You can feel the outer colors. Red, orange, whatever, you can feel them inside your body. You can feel them. You look at them and you can feel they have a taste, which means that this outer world and inner world are mixed somehow. This is the beginning of these kind of experiences. And then suddenly you see the colors on your inner screen, which you cannot see outside world. I can call them, give them names. It's like gold and black, gold and purple, gold and green. So you see them clearly, but they do not exist outside. Then you have some experiences like you are seeing yourself in front of you on the inner screen, copy of yourself. What you should do at that point, if anybody experiences that, everybody should concentrate on the eyes, or your own eyes in front of you. This is what you should do in the case you have that experience. And there's another experience which is very interesting, the seeing of the inner organs. You can see the inner organs, you know it's that tissue and everything, but you don't know which organ that is. You know, you see it clearly, veins and everything, but you don't know which organ that is. But it happens. You have those experiences. So there are many these sensations you are having. Everything is some kind of you see that this world is not real. This is some kind of an illusion, you know. Most of the stuff we don't know about the truth, the ultimate truth.
Once you told me about your experience with the Sant Mat tradition, and it looks to me that this is also connected, that those experiences of seeing inner world, the other dimension, perceiving, and the inner light, which you had through the practice of that Sant Mat tradition, the great master you met of that tradition.
Yeah, I met, actually I was the last man being initiated by Master Darshan Singh. This Sant Mat tradition is interesting because of one thing. It does describe all the levels, inner levels, so-called, you know, all the way to the state of the high state, Sachkhand, which is basically what was described by Maharishi as a state of unity consciousness. Ultimately, it is the same, you know, but the paths towards it are different. Maharishi used to talk about the other beings existing, the other realms, like Astral realm and all that. They were lighter, made of light, things like that. He used to say that. And the same story is in Sant Mat, basically. You know, but in Sant Mat, you have this experience. What is amazing? When you see something and you think you are fantasizing or hallucinating. That happened to me. I have seen that purple sun on the horizon and some strange things around, creatures, and suddenly there was a cigarette smoke in front of me. And later I said, Jesus Christ, I must be hallucinating. How can it be that somewhere on the higher levels there is cigarette smoking? But I've read in Adi Granth Sahib, this is the sacred scripture of Holy Scripture of Sikhs, that's description. You see that purple sun and the kind of smoke in front of you. You know, it was real, but I didn't know that. So yeah, you can dive in. I think everybody who is having a good experiences with transcendental meditation and is transcending regularly can also see these realities. I don't think it's exclusive. You know, it's like I've seen some experiences described by Dandi Swamis, and this is the tradition from which Maharishi is coming originally. They are called the Dandi Swamis. So they did describe similar parallel realities, the other worlds and everything, but you can see them. It's not that unusual. I mean, in meditation, you sometimes see things like that, which are fantastic. Later, when you are back in that normal state of mind, you are, of course, you have some doubts. So you are going around and checking the literature and everything to see it could be real. But there are some, you know, it's like what is the most amazing thing is when you are entering these finer states, like towards transcendental consciousness. I don't think you are entering real transcendental. When you do it once, you're there for all times. You know, probably this is the final state. It is just my opinion, observation. But what I wrote it down here. It's called when you enter the state. They asked Maharishi once about the vacuum. Is that empty? And he said no. Vacuum is not empty. At that time, it was a revolutionary statement. Today, we know that we have something which is called like vacuum energy fluctuations. Still, in that finest state of consciousness, there's something going on. In my opinion, these are, you can imagine it as dots. You see, dots of information, which means if yogi can enter the state and he's encountering these impure informations, he can, with his intention, put them together the way he wants to, so he can create the worlds. That's this expression in yoga. Yogi can create the worlds. That's what is that about here. If you enter that state, you are in the field of all pure informations. So with your intention, you are putting them together, bringing them together. And you can create something new. That, in my opinion, in some of my experiences, that is the ultimate goal of our spiritual evolution. That's it. That's it.
Yes, and it's interesting because how our brain functions, still it's a great miracle, and for the scientists, and even they are changing the understanding of the function of the brain. Every year there is some new knowledge coming up, and recently I heard that in the field of neurology they are telling like that the brain is not creating consciousness, but it is like antenna which reflects the consciousness. And I found the same statement Nikola Tesla gave many years back. He said that the human brain is antenna which reflects the universal consciousness and creates individual consciousness. And in the Vedic text, you know that Satchit Ananda is described as that eternal field of bliss consciousness, the chit, the consciousness which is unbounded. And then from the chit comes chitta, or it means individual field of consciousness. So the chit is universal field of consciousness, and then the human brain is somehow reflecting, has ability to create individual field of consciousness, or chitta. And then in that individual field of consciousness, we are having different kind of experiences or vrittis through the means of the perception, memory, and all kinds of the smriti and jnanindriyas and manas and buddhi, through the intellect, to all kinds of experiences we can have. But what is the purpose of yoga is to stop all those activities of the vrittis, so that the chitta becomes pure, and then it can recognize its origin. Then the brain achieves such condition that it can give us the recognition of our origin. So I think this is the future for further research to find out. But many practices can modify the activity of the brain, and in that sense give us different kind of experiences, more refined levels of the creation to experience and everything. But the final should be that experience of Satchit Ananda as the final, as transcendental consciousness, what Maharishi used to speak. But in that case, yes, and in that sense, when you have that purity of consciousness, it can reflect in itself the reality of the whole universe as rishis had. And you were researching also in that field about the abilities of the rishis, that their nervous system are so pure and glorified, we can say. It is improved the functions, all the senses can give them much more information than what we in this condition can have. For example, the sense of hearing, of the sense of smell, or the sense of, it's very restricted for our experience. But for the experience of the rishis, they had enormous range of informations available for their cognition.
There are two problems here. You are talking at very high levels of consciousness. You know, only few people can understand it. Most of the people are using meditation to have better lives. But you can run a test, very simple one, where when you are talking about brain. Brain is a computer. You just have to give him a task and he will spit out the solution. So I tested that. There's a system. It's actually the old system in the Western occultism and so on. When you go to sleep, you have to enter that state which I described in the connection with autogenic training, which is called hypnagogic state. So this is the state when you are floating between dream state and awakened state. And you have to give a task to your brain, issue an order to the brain to supply the answer on some question. In the morning, before you wake up, there's hypnapompnic state, which is very similar to hypnagogic, almost the same, but before you awake. Here is before you fall asleep, here is before you awake. The answer should appear in that moment. So I made a bet. There was a football, and we are playing against Scotland, and we are playing against France, football. And I said to Goran Milic, who is a famous journalist, very famous, and I said, look, I can ask my brain what will be the result with Scotland. And I did it. And the other way, it was 1-3 for us. So I published it before the game, of course, on the internet, on my Facebook profile. He said it's not possible, it's superstitious, things. Okay, no? It was 1-3. Then we played with France. I repeated the same process. And I said, it will be 4-2 for France, or it will be 3-3. I published that again. And 10 minutes before the end of the game, it wasn't clear what's happening. And I said to my wife, look, it's not decided yet. So it was 3-2 for France. And it wasn't 4-2, but it was 3-3. And ultimately we've lost. But anyways, I hit the exact result again. When something is emotionally significant for the whole nation, when something has millions of informations in media and around you, your brain is sucking that in. All these informations, you're not aware of them at all. Billions of information, you're not aware. But if you give a task to your brain to the whole night, he's calculating the most probable result of it. And in the morning, you get the result. But if you ask questions, like, for example, where is the end of the universe, about things we don't know about, you get strange images you cannot understand. So your brain is giving you what he can. If he doesn't have enough information, he can't give you an exact answer. That's how we can use the brain. Many famous discoveries were actually achieved in the brain. Kekule, his structure of benzene, which is revolutionary thing in organic chemistry, came to him in his dreams. There are many inventors that actually unconsciously made their brains working for them throughout the night and spitting out the answers in the morning. That's how the brain works. That's the point of this whole story. But let's be back to rishis. You said they have all this super hearing, super taste, everything. We have in our organism some organs which are the remnants of this perfect power. One is Jacobsen's organ. It was actually discovered by Jacobsen. It's a Danish surgeon. He discovered the nerves inside your nose. If we imagine that this organ, which is just the remnant of the original organ today, would be fully active now, such a person could perceive with the smell or pheromones billions of different humans at the same time. That would be a yogi sitting in a Himalayan cave and knowing about the billions of people on the face of the earth. This is unimaginable power. Then we have a third eye. We are calling it Ajna Chakra, Agya Chakra, whatever. This is the remnant of the organ once rishis had. These are the remnants of these organs. So we have a Sacral Plexus, which was probably, it is here, inside here in the area around navel, deep inside. It's called Sacral Plexus. Anatomists call it like that. And that was probably, this is the remnant of the organ that controlled the production of stem cells, which are the clue of the rejuvenation, the secret of the rejuvenation. Probably that organ was controlling the production of the stem cells in the intestines. So we have plenty of these. We have, for example, if you why Ketsari Mudra, you turn your tongue inside, and what you are doing, you are closing that passage from sinuses down to the throat, not to pick up the soma. You are touching with the tip of your tongue, you are touching the group of the nerves inside. And this is the projection of Bindu chakra. So a basic, you are awakening your power of rejuvenation by touching these nerves with the tip of your tongue. That's the true meaning of Ketsari Mudra. There are different explanations, but this, I bet that this one is a real one. So there are many things, probably these rishis were coming from, as Tilak said, from Arctic, and there was that great flood. They were moving towards India. Probably some of them went far away from normal, ordinary people up there in Himalayas. They couldn't live. How can you live with a super smell with other people? Jesus Christ, that's unimaginable. So you have to walk away from ordinary people. The rest of the people, they will live in normal lives. So yeah, I think the rishis were some kind of a race that lived. And what they did, they wrote down the Vedic scriptures, Rig Veda, 10 mandalas, and every knowledge is coded in it. They left the code like that. So I can tell you example. Recently, the group of Indian researchers, medical researchers, conducted a measurement of brains of the professional singers of Vedas in India. And the frontal area of the brain was double thick than in ordinary people. just by singing this Soma mandala and all these mandalas, the brain developed more. So it's obvious that this is a kind of message. This research was conducted with functional MRI, and it was published in a scientific journal. So it's a serious business, you know. We know that now. So there are many still undiscovered secrets connected to ancient Vedas and that culture.
Yes, and also the Maharishi Yogi gave this understanding that actually the sounds of the Veda, that from the sound the matter is created, and the physical body, human body, is just the physical expression of those sounds. And he used to correlate, and Dr. Tony Nader created that assigning different aspects of Veda to different parts of physiology. And it is very old, in a way, understanding, which is now more scientifically elaborated.
Well, you know, the first book was by author was real. He published that, Tare Porewala and Sons published that in 1931 in India. The title is Vedic Gods. The author claims that all the gods of India actually are our physiological systems. That was first time that anybody mentioned that here not in the West, but publicly. And after that, some people picked it up. Maharishi developed that further. Of course, he has seen even the structure of these letters and everything is involved in this story. I ran tests myself. You know, it's like I call it vortex antenna. I don't know why I call it that way. So I started my research with Dr. Chris Duffield. This was the man from Stanford. He had similar ideas like me. Now we are looking for it. Yeah, that's the one. Back. Go back. This is okay. This is okay. I created these antennas like this, and I wanted to see how they affect the surrounding area where they are, these symbols themselves. So we actually made an experiment on the Department of Biochemistry in one of Croatian medical universities. This was put under the petri dish in which there were cancer cells. The tests were repeated 3 times under control and with 8 different types of cancer. In all these cases, the reproduction of cancer cells were reduced by 32%, although there was no physical touch between this antenna and cancer themselves. So that was amazing result. And then we repeated that with innumerable other problems and innumerable other situations. And ultimately, Dr. Ernst Schrott came to Zagreb, and national TV wanted us to conduct a test in front of the team. So they came to Samobor, and in the local ambulance there was a doctor who was in charge, and we took a volunteer, and he gave a blood. So we put in the other building, we put the water, and beneath the water there was that antenna. So the blood was given in the other building. So exactly at 5 o'clock, the volunteer gave the blood. The blood was taken to the other building, and Schrott was measuring 12 acupunctural meridians, the levels of energy in them, in the subject, which was sitting with us. So it was different, you know, up and down and everything. at the moment when his blood touched the water in the other building, all these energies brought up on the maximum. Obviously, his blood was sending the messages to his body, what's going on with it. There was some kind of a traffic of signals between the blood in the other building and the man in this building. And we were waiting for 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, and it stopped. There wasn't that effect anymore because the blood degraded. So there was no anymore those spirals of DNA and everything to run it. It's obviously fantastic. It's non-scientific, but anyways, it worked. So I asked William Tiller, he also professor emeritus. I visited him in Arizona and asked him about it. What does he think about these experiments and everything? And he said this, he's doing the same experiments in Payson. He had a lab in Payson, Arizona. So I've spent a long time with him in Scottsdale, in his hacienda, and we discussed all these data. And he was quite convinced that this is possible. And then I found in the literature something very unusual. Dr. Neil Boyd, the physicist, found the concept of bhutatmas in Veda. So he said, this should be some of a particle which is on the it's the same at the same time it's consciousness and it's matter. Unusual combination, and that can change the local reality, which would fit what we have got with our experiments. So of course somebody else should take it more seriously, and it was just preliminary experiment we conducted. But with people like Schroth, like I don't know, Pierre Rubesha from Lausanne, he was conducting these measurements. Our friend Vollkammer, Klaus, also in Germany, he was a physicist. Then we have William Tiller, who's a legendary person in this field, and so on. All of them have seen it, and then I tried it with bees and honey production and all kinds of experiments. There are innumerable ones. But of course now somebody else should take that over and continue with these experiments. There's a problem with Tony Nader and his group. That's what they did, and it's amazing, absolutely. This is the example of it. It's absolutely unbelievable. All this Veda really, really in the best possible way explained. Very convincing, but what is lacking is the practical experiments with it. Now somebody should put that in practice, if you know what I mean. It's brilliant theoretically, but what we are lacking are experiments to see how it works. These sounds being applied for healing, for anything, but being applied.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was beautiful from many angles, bringing light into the possibilities of the life and what we in our life can experience. And I remember once Maharishi said, the life is the field of all possibilities. And which possibility we choose, it becomes our life. So this is that freedom that more we know and more we are aware of more possibilities, we have more freedom to choose better options. And this is exampled in your own life, because you are always full of enthusiasm, and this keeps you so young, mentally and biologically, always searching for more angles of knowledge and further, and giving to the people new understanding. And thank you very much for that. And now,
you're welcome.
If there is any kind of question, we can have some time for the questions you can ask.
Not me. I don't have any questions.
Yes. Hmm? So or it was so many new informations that still there is some time needed to digest.
That's correct.
And
I am aware of it, you know.
yeah.
But I'm always back to Maharishi somehow, you know. Anything I study, I find in some of his words the explanation. That's amazing with him. No matter what you research, you can be always back to the basic knowledge he gave. Always. It's maybe it's up to the taste, you know, maybe. But I always find this explanation in his words for everyone, every phenomenon I encounter.
Hmm.
I don't believe I'm so smart that nobody has any questions. I feel like a pope, you know, if I say something, nobody dares to ask.
Okay, maybe I can ask one question. My name is Vedran, and can you hear me?
Da, malo glasnije.
Not very well.
I don't know why. I will not switch on my camera because currently I'm COVID positive, so I'm not representative for showing me. But I will ask a question. So first time I hear someone to emphasize data collecting related to subjective science, meditation, yoga, and so on. So I created one software for Ayurveda clinics, and my intention for doing this is to see what will happen when we collect a lot of data and we see what can be processed or statistically proven from that. So I'm just asking you, do you think that this kind of data collection and processing can be useful in general?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. It can be used because, you know, when you watch and listen to the experiences of different people, you can, they are different subjectively. But when they are referring, for example, to the experience of infinity or something like that, they are the same. So you can recognize this description. Somebody says, I have seen the road, which is endless. This is endlessness. So you see the road and you see there's no end to it. The other one describes the stars, but after these stars are new stars. There's no end to it. So infinity can be described in different terms, but this is always the idea of infinity. So in that way, we have, of course, we see different colors, different this and that, and different angels and different whatever. It's normal because through our knowledge, previous knowledge, reading the books, watching films, listen to the talks, discourses, we develop some idea about something. So usually this subjective experience is projected into our description of spiritual experience. But the basics, the underlying cause is recognized if you have such software. So you can make, of course, you can make any comparisons and you can observe it statistically. Everybody's doing that. Nowadays, you have 3 million people initiated in transcendental meditation in the world. You don't need them. If you get this from 10,000 of them, you will see the regularity. I'm sure of it. Yeah, that should be done, but that's up to the people that are running the organization, not
Okay.
you know, not up to me.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for fascinating talk. I just like to ask you about the resistances. What did you say that autogenic training may help in alleviating resistance in meditation, which I'm also experiencing?
Yes, undoubtedly. You know, it's the process itself is spontaneous. Maharishi said 1,000 times, take it as it comes. But if you take it as it comes, and you're a Westerner with some, you don't have that genetic predisposition, which some yogis have. They close their eyes and they are transcending. We Westerners are different. We have a lot of traumas, stresses, a lot of educational wounds, let's call it that way, and we have a lot of problems like that. This is 95% of our life. Only 5% is conscious life. So there's just one thing that you can do. You can enter that state of hypnagogic state in which you can bypass your these obstacles in your subconscious mind, and you can remove them by certain formulas which are created for some purpose. If you have one problem, you need one formula to remove it. Another one, another formula. Gradually, you dissolve these, these rocks in your subconscious mind. Because if you don't do it, then your meditations, after 20 years, you don't have any experiences or progress. To make a progress further, you have to remove these obstacles. It's true that some relaxation exercises in yoga are good for it, but they last too long and they are not so well explained how you use them to remove these obstacles. They are okay, you are relaxed. It takes too long, and it does relax only your muscles. But you need to relax other things like solar plexus, like breathing, like your heartbeat and everything. If you do it in one exercise, after 2-3 minutes, you're there in that state. Then you can gradually dissolve the obstacles you have. And your meditations are much deeper. There are new developments going on and everything. So I strongly advise people to do that, no matter which the type of meditation they are using. It can be Tantra yoga, it can be, transcendental meditation, it can be anything, Tibetan yoga. It doesn't matter. All these meditations are basically, they have the same goal. So whatever you do, you need to start on a little bit deeper level than you usually do. If you start meditating, you're nervous, you are not relaxed fully, then it takes you 40 minutes just to calm down. In this way, you are calm within 2 minutes. And then you start in a deep, relaxed state of mind. And of course, you have a progress which is much faster. That's my experience.
There is
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
also about those obstacles. Maharishi Patanjali is speaking as kleshas in his second chapter of the Yoga Sutras, where he is mentioning that those 5 kleshas are the main obstacles to stabilize and reach the state of samadhi, and they need to be reduced for reaching the state of samadhi. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, nivesha. So there are 5, but in a sense, they are at the basis of all kind of subconscious problems that we are faced with. It is like reduced to the 5, like in Ayurveda, you have all kind of health problems reduced to the disbalance of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, or the 5 elements. If you find a way how to bring those elements into the balance, then regardless any kind of disease, then you will be solving the situation.
Well, it is like that, but generally speaking, today's society is faced with much worse diseases than in Vedic times. Nobody can cure cancer today. It's a myth, of course. Everybody claims he's doing this and that. You can't reduce everything today on the few simple principles. It is like that. For prevention, definitely is true. You can prevent many things like that. But when the organism is already in an advanced state of illness and is bad, and you can't save it. And our traumas we had today, our nervous system is not built for it. We have way too much traumas today to handle. So these principles are valid, but not good enough. You understand? If you are today, you watch TV, all the news, everything essential. We will be hungry. We will, I don't know. The climate goes to hell. Tsunamis are killing. Now nuclear war will start. All that stuff is so overwhelming. We have internet, millions of negative informations a day. Wherever you go, you see that negativity. So it's Kali Yuga, anyways. It's written like this. So we can't reduce everything on few simple principles. We should add something to it. That's how I see it. I'm not advocating some, I don't know, strict and fanatical allopathic medicine. But I believe that there's a possibility in cooperation. That holistic principle in Ayurveda and these traditional medicines is very welcome. It's a new approach, but you still have a lot of developed medicines in allopathic medicine which can help where this principle is too late for it. So people are still dying, and these diseases are worse and worse every day. So yes, we should use every possible weapon to fight disease, every possible weapon and technique to fight stress, everything available. Some of it was developed in West, some of it in East. So this cooperation is a basic idea that I had after many years, of my experience. I've seen a lot of people really making a tremendous effort in meditation, in being, in living a way like Ayurveda wants them to, all that, but still many of them, they developed illnesses which are characteristic for the modern world. It's happening, it's here around us. So we should use everything we have. You understand what I mean? And for some people, it will be always, meditation will be easy. They will make good progress and everything, but most of them not. It was always like that in the whole history. And somebody made a calculation. It was like this: 5% of people on the face of the earth are special, in some sense. Always 5%. 5% in every human activity. And some people, there's an author which is excellent, Leonard Mlodinov. He's a psychologist. He wrote 3 bestseller books in America. He's mentioning that principle, that around 5% of people are special. They have special abilities. So, it's real. Maharishi was talking about 1% even. He would be happy to see 1% of people meditating, and still, 1%, and try imagine 5. That would be great. I still believe that maybe somebody will sober up or see the truth. Something will happen, some miracle. Obviously, the show is run by power, not goodness. Now weapons are in charge, obviously. So hopefully it will change. I hope so.
Yes, as you are enthusiast, so we join you and with the hope that
Thank you.
this is the only what we have. The hope. Without hope, the world has no bright future. So everybody must have hope for a better future and put all the thoughts and energy in that direction. Then something
We should be
will
positive by all means.
materialize.
There's no
Yes.
doubt. Definitely, I agree with you. I am supporting every movement, every idea which is progressive, bringing peace.
Yes.
And good for people, of course, no doubt about it. But we all have different experiences and different views of it. It's like I have my experiences, you have yours. Everybody has different experiences, so we share them. Maybe somebody recognizes in my words what is his problem and solution. The other person will recognize in your words what is good for him or her. So that's why we share these ideas and experiences. That's the true reason. And I'm proud of you, I must tell you that. We started together, remember?
Yes.
Eating all these oranges the whole night.
And it was always fun.
Yeah, always. There was always fun. See us.
Great. So thank you very much, dear
You're
Drago,
welcome.
for being with us, and also I'm thankful to the Indian Embassy and Manohar ji for helping organizing these events, and everybody present. As you said, it is in time to share our views, our knowledge, and more and more, and then growing together, understanding, and not being exclusive in any sense regarding anything, but being ready, being open to share and to receive. So thank you very much, everybody, and Drago.
You too.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Drago.
Yeah, have a good life.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Shivam.